Hi, welcome back. I'm so glad you could join me here today. Today we'll be doing a nice little interesting painting. I hope you could follow along with me. Let me have them run the colors across the screen that you'll need to paint along with me. While you're doing that, let me tell you what I got done up here. I have my regular pre-stretch 16 by 20 inch canvas, double pre-stretch and double prime, and what I did was add a thin layer of the liquid white. Rather than that, it's slick, it's wet, it's ready to go. Now, I know many of you might know this, but a good way to test that your liquid white is on perfectly, you touch it lightly and you see that white paint, but you can still see your fingerprints. If you see that, that means you have a good application of the liquid white. If you see too much, if you don't see your fingerprints, that means you have too much. If you can't see anything, that means you have too little. So that's a little trick you can use when doing that. Um, but rather than that, let's get started with today's painting. I spent enough time explaining the liquid white thing. Let's go ahead. Let me grab a 2-inch brush and I'm going to take it through a little bit of Prussian blue. Now, I'm going to take my brush through a little bit of titanium white, Prussian blue, maybe a little touch of crimson, and maybe a slightest touch of sap green. Just many colors. Tap it on the brush and see what happens. Let's see what happens. Let me just shoom, go crisscross back and forth. Now I can see a little bit of that green, but we'll blend it out. I have no worries about that. No worries and no regrets. There, just mix it up and make it blend with that color. Now, let me grab my palette knife and I'm gonna just mix up the paint just to get it better. I'm gonna grab a little bit of Prussian blue, a little bit of alizarin crimson, and slightest touch of sap green. Let me grab some white just to test out the color, see where I should change my color variation. A little more green and a bit more white. You can mess around or you could just pick one simple color. There. Just adding something in the top just to kind of work our way into the painting. And let it fade out. Let it get lighter towards the base. And just keep doing figures of 8 if you want to blend out a spot. Now that looks good. But I want a little more darker this top area. So just adding a little more paint and just going crisscross strokes. Figures of 8, whatever you know it as. Just going back and forth, blending it. So we have that going. Where's my palette knife? Here it is. Now, I want to create a nice looking mountain. So, I'm going to grab a little bit of alizarin crimson, sap green, mix it up in equal parts. Or you could do it more to one side, up to you really. And then a little bit of black. Just to tone it down a bit. And then we'll put pile aside. A little bit of Prussian blue just to darken that up. And maybe a touch more of alizarin crimson. Now, let's come up here, cut a roll of paint. As you can see, It's a nice dark pigment. And we're gonna come up here, and I want my center point right here. I want a big mountain. And it kind of just drops. Maybe this is the closest it'll get to coming back up. It drops again. There. Let me grab my 2-inch brush, line it with that outside edge, and just pull. Now, the blue does change a little bit of the pigment, but it still stays brown, as you can see. So don't be scared to test out paint colors. If you want to make it darker, I would suggest adding a bit of blue rather than black, because then you rely too much on black, and that's the last thing you want to do when it comes to learning how to paint. You want to use colors that are complementary or against or whatever. I suggest you guys print out a color wheel. It really can help. Color wheel can help you out so much. I had to. I thought I knew what I was doing, then I went back, printed out a color wheel, and said, you know what? I gotta go back to the beginning. You can't think you know what you're doing, because then you get too comfortable where you're at. And when you get too comfortable, there's no improvement. So I'm gonna add a little bit of white to my brown color and cut a roll of paint. Let's come up here. That's too dark, so we can add even more white. Well, not even more, but just a little bit more. No, that's too bright. Yeah, somewhere in the in between I like. Okay, so I'm gonna just decide where I'm gonna blend it out with my brush, and I'm gonna make it a brush mountain or whatever you want to call it. I call it a brush mountain because you're using the brush. All I used my palette knife for really is to mix up or apply the paint onto the canvas. Come up here, something like so. There. Something like that. Now, I'm gonna grab my flat brush and just work it in. Work in all that brush, like that paint in. I was gonna say brushwork, but we're barely doing the brushwork. There. Okay. Now, I'm gonna get a little bit of that brown, add a touch of Prussian blue to darken it up. A little bit more green and red, just a little bit. And I'm gonna add just the slightest hint of white. And just shoom. Okay. Just kind of push everything back a bit. This is where everything kind of comes together. There. and then just pull out just a little. Pull that mountain right out. There. Ooh, gives you the shape already. Okay, now going back with our flat brush, just lightly graze it. Very lightly. You don't have to do much. There. There we are. Ooh. There. That kind of brings everything together. Now, we gotta have an extra little highlight for our highlights. Just where the sun would kind of kiss it a bit more. So just adding a little bit of white to it. Just a lighter brown. Just here and there. Here and there and there and here. Maybe a bit more white. Ooh, that's nice. I'm gonna blend it out. If it's too bright for you, you can always just blend it out more and more. The more you blend it out, the less bright it is. There. Now, I'm going to knock that brightness down. Just kind of knock it out a bit. Step back. See if I like it or not. I'm gonna load it up on my brush this time. Just to sort of get something on there. A little bit of liquid white. Just here and there. You know what? We'll call it there. Now, let me clear up the palette a bit. I'm gonna grab a little bit of sap green and slightest touch of alizarin crimson just to darken it up. And then slightest touch of the Prussian blue. So, sap green, alizarin crimson, Prussian blue. Much more green than both the other colors. Okay. Now I'm gonna go in with my flat brush, load up some paint, and just have at it. There. Maybe right here, there goes a little bit. I want to make these into distant trees. And there would be a bit more shadow on the other side, so I'm going to add a little bit of mountain mixture. Just to sort of show that contrast on the sides. If this is all light, then this is dark. But then also, the light's coming this way, there would be some areas where it has a little bit, so we'll go with the little cadmium yellow, just kind of knock some little light spots in, just a little. I'm not trying to overdo it. Now, I'm gonna go in with my 2-inch brush, same dirty 2-inch, and just kind of pull it down. And I'm gonna lift up ever so lightly. There. And tap down here. Just getting the basis, really. And lift up, just like that. We're ready to go. Now, what I want to do, I'm gonna grab a little bit of sap green and cadmium yellow, and I'm gonna touch it with a little bit of crimson, just a little bit. Ooh. I want some somewhat dull highlights just to add here and there, just so it can kind of stand out a bit more. Lift up there. And we'll make everything come together in a sec. I'm gonna grab a little bit of sap green on my 2-inch, and then a little bit of alizarin crimson, a little bit of that blue sky color we used early on. And maybe, since we're gonna use it as base color, we can add a little bit of black. But you shouldn't have to rely on it for everything. That's the new thing I want to have everyone do. When you're used to using black, try to avoid it. Try to find other solutions to make up a color. That way you'll learn new things. There. And I'm gonna just do crisscross. Doesn't really matter. I'm just blocking in color. I just care about that little edge, basically. There. Just crisscross. Doesn't really matter. Okay. So now, what I want to do, well, first let's focus on this. So I'm going to a little bit of, you know what? We're gonna do brush strokes. Light would be hitting it more over here. It's going to a little bit of crimson and a little bit of Prussian blue, a little bit of green, a little more crimson, like a brown green, but I want it more to the green side than red, since I'm using it for the grass, just to create the illusion of shadow. There. Now I'm gonna add a little touch of black. Make sure you tap that paint in. And over here would be dark, but I'm gonna scratch a line in. That's the angle the light's coming in. So you still have to have some light sort of shining through there. But the rest would kind of be shadows. Here and there, it's okay to pop in a little bit of light, but for the most part, shadows. And I'm gonna go into a little bit of Prussian blue, just to mix with my cadmium yellow. There. and sort of just go wild. There we are. And I just want to blend that in between. Okay, I'm gonna go more into pure cadmium yellow and start to think where more clear lighting would shine. And just sort of blending it out, kind of working in gradients of color. A few here and there, but don't want to overdo. There we are. So what I'm going to do next is let me mix up a color for just some background foliage. So just clearing up some space on my palette knife, trying to see if I have a napkin. I do. I'm gonna grab Alizarin Crimson, sap green, more sap green, little bit of that blue color, a little bit more crimson, and some Prussian blue. Just mix up that paint, get it into a nice solid color. Now, I'm gonna tap the corner of my 2-inch. Let me see if I can get it just right. Just tapping that top corner of the brush. Let's come up here and let's think where some trees would live. I'm just making a whole, kind of like making it look like a forest. It's okay if you have a little bit of gap in between. It's perfectly fine. Doesn't have to be all together. And maybe right here there's going to be a closer tree, in my opinion. Now, let me mix up nice brown color. So about equal proportions of alizarin crimson and sap green this time. So you get the brown you like. A little bit more green. And I'm gonna add a touch of Prussian blue. I went a little too deep in that blue. At this point, I just want a nice dark color. And you know what? We'll go with my flat brush. Load up my brush full with paint. Let's just come up here and just few little indications of tree branches, the base, and all that good stuff. Shoom. You decide where each tree lives, really. Which one separates, which one stays together. It's up to you. If you left a little bit of space, it kind of helps determine that. But if you put it all together, then you're gonna have to think a little bit which one you want to separate, which one you want to keep together. Now, I'm not too worried about the base because we could cover it up. Um, we can cover up anything we don't like with that grassy color, that undertone. See, I'll be making lines and all that. It's alright. Doesn't matter until it's completely done. Now I'm gonna go into my dull green. I'm gonna just call it a dull green. And really come up here and just highlight some of it. Not too bright. Not too bright, nothing too crazy. Just more over here, it's gonna start getting more brighter. But for these over here, it shouldn't be too bright. There. We can always blend that out. A little more yellow. Shoo. There we are. Just a couple leaves there for this little guy. He's still growing. Maybe over here. And all I'm doing is using the corner of this random flat brush I found. See, I'm gonna tell you it's not too important what flat brush, but there may be other artists that tell you it's very important. So test other things. As of right now, I say it's not important, but who knows? Maybe a year down the line, 2 years down the line, I might start telling you guys it's important. It's a learning process, and you just gotta kind of have to see other people and test certain things, see which ones you like from one person and what you like from the other. Just testing. But you see how it gets brighter and brighter because the sun's kind of hitting it more, that little angle. There we are. Okay, and all I'm going to do is mix up a nice shadow color, so the brown and the dull green and a little bit of mountain mixture, and just go in it and just with the corner of the brush. That's all you really need. There we are. Just a few spots here and there. Make sure you load your brush almost every time. I just have couple ideas left after finishing with this, and we'll call it complete. There. Who knows, maybe some leaves are falling there. Boop, boop, boop. There we are. Let me blend this one out just like I said I would. Kind of like so. And just crisscross motion. Okay. And I'm gonna go into some lighter color and just shoom. And some darker color. For this, I'm gonna use some black and a little bit of that shadow color we had over here. I think shadows over here would appear much darker since we're getting closer to the viewer's eye. So just made it more darker just so it could pop out. There. Instead of using that brown, I'm gonna use mountain mixture to create a nice big branch holding up that tree. Okay. Going back to my highlight colors, kind of just going in between and trying to blend these out. And some pure cadmium yellow. There. Just a few light spots hitting. And I'm gonna go into some titanium white, some of that brown color. And we'd see a little bit over here. And a little bit of darker color going over here on this other side. And let's get some bright color, but it has to get a little dark because the tree's covering right there. Let me just beat the devil. Okay. And I want to be able to draw the viewer's attention, so boom, maybe, shoom, maybe, shoom. Just create these trees, just sort of covering and also leading the viewer's eye. It's all about kind of like making a circle and leading the center. So if you understood that, it's kind of hard to explain myself. I mean, it's not hard, but hard to me. Shoom. And a little bit of cadmium yellow. And just maybe here, there. You could stop at different spots. Okay. Some white. And going into that brown color. Look at my palette. What a big mess. So since I polluted my brown with green, I'm just countering it with a little bit of crimson just to kind of counter that green I had on my brush. I'm going to grab a little bit of liquid white just to make it thinner, or some medium, some white with oil paint, however you want to know it as. Okay, Shoot, we gotta fix over here. Okay. A little more crimson. If you happen to put too much crimson, just go back with green. It'll balance out everything. The same way you created the color is the same way you can fix it. And okay, I'm gonna add a little bit of black to that. There. Just creating a simple shadow. Okay. And a little bit over here on this side. And just do it for all your trees. They gotta have shadows. Okay. And then a little bit of cadmium yellow. And I want them to be like the feet of the trees to be at different like push them back and all that. That's why I'm doing these types of stuff, just to make it look like some trees are closer, some trees are farther back. And just blend that out. And with that, you know what? With that, we can grab a little bit of black, a little bit of Prussian blue, have a little bit here, dark green, little black and crimson. I want to have something to kind of bring it out. So I was going to end it, but let's have something to pop everything out. And then grab a little bit of white and alizarin crimson and a little bit of liquid white. There. Just a few indications of some flowers living out there. There we are. And just opening up those bristles just to create a little bit of grassy things growing up in there. Okay. And just can put those last final touches. But with that, that completes today's painting. I really hope you enjoyed it. I apologize for it being a bit longer, but you guys should understand. I really appreciate each and every one of you, and I really hope you try this painting out. If you do, send me an email. I would love to see what you create. From the bottom of my heart, I thank you for your support, and I'll see you in the next video. Until then, take care, my friend. Goodbye.